Good. Good afternoon, everyone. The broadcast of the webinar has started. We could give in a couple of minutes for everyone to join in and settle and get started.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Hello, Holger.
Hello, how are you? Hello, Holger.
Hello, Holger.
Hello, Julio. Hello, Jorge. The camera is working and sound is okay.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Yeah. And
Okay.
as I say, we'll give a couple more minutes for the attendees to join. I'll cover a couple of housekeeping matters. Hope you can all see my screen, but thank you all for coming, and we'll be here today with you on this co-launch event for ERA-MIN3 project that will last approximately 2 hours. It'll be divided in two main parts. One starting now at 2 o'clock Central European time to basically cover the main aspects of the actual ERA-MIN3 project. And a second part that will go into the details of the EU Co-funded ERAMIN Joint Call of 2021 that was launched just last month. There'll be a section at the end of the event for questions and answers, although of course it's possible to be resolving the matters as they come up for each of the different panelists. The actual microphones and cameras are switched off and muted, so we recommend that you use the questions options in the GoToWebinar platform to pose your questions. They'll be registered and we can either answer them in writing, either Julio or I would be co-chairing the session today, or directed to the panelists this minute. Also, at the end of the session, it'll be possible as well to use the chat or raise your hand option if you want to voice your questions. Okay. And whilst we wait to say for one or two more minutes, I do want to pass on a question from the ERA-MIN3 coordinator, Dina Carrillo, who would usually, if it were possible to hold these meetings in person, would ask for a share of hands for everyone that has heard of ERA-MIN3 before and those have not. So feel free to put in the chat if it's your first time hearing about the ERA-MIN project, and we'll gladly get an idea of the audience and the knowledge you guys have of this program. Okay. Very good. Okay, so we have close to 200 people already joining the event, so I'll start just with a quick run-up of the actual details of the agenda. We'll have some introducing words from Helena Pereira to launch the event. Will be followed by Dina Carrillo's background on the ERA-MIN3 project. Pleased to have as well Jonas Hedberg, who will be giving some context on the ERA-MIN set of projects in the Horizon 2020 framework program. And we'll finish the first part with intervention from Daniel Cios, who will be talking about how ERA-MIN has been created with a critical raw materials action plan. We'll have then a short break, and we'll have some time, hopefully, to show a couple of testimonials from past ERA-MIN projects, and we'll move on to the second part of the agenda, which I was mentioning. We'll cover the specific aspects of the ERA-MIN Joint Call of 2021, where I will be giving some quick overview of the main aspects. Then Holger will be providing some more details on the electronic submission system, as well as the online part of search tool we developed purposely for this call. And finally, Ana Luisa will give an overview of different national contact points that you have for each of your respective countries and some of the specific rules of regulations and where you can find all the information. And as I mentioned, we'll have a closing Q&A session where, again, you'll be able to raise any further questions that you may have. And with that, I would like, and I'm very pleased to give the floor to Helena Pereira. She's the president, the board of directors at FCT, and she'll be giving a few words. Thank you, Helena.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello to everyone. It is really a pleasure to be here opening this webinar and this kickoff launch meeting for this ERA-MIN project. We are, as you know, the coordinators of this ERA-MIN3 project, and this is a large one with 24 research funding associations. So it is really a task and an endeavor to launch and to coordinate and to have, of course, successful results on this. So again, I will be very brief, just to greet all the researchers that are listening to us, all the funding agencies, the international organizations. So hello to everyone. I hope everybody is well in these so complex times. In this ERA-MIN3 project, we have three important topics that are already in its title. We have raw materials, we have, of course, sustainable development, and we have circular economy. These are really three aspects of utmost importance for Europe and for the world, in fact. And we will develop these ideas in this project. I hope that we will achieve new knowledge, new results, new instruments to go along what we want for Europe, to have a greener Europe, to have a more resilient Europe, and to have also this transition to a digital society that will be able to cope with difficult stress situations and complex situations in the future. So I'm sure that with this launching of this first this launch event of our joint call, we will give a first step to achieve some things under these lines. So we will, as it was already said, we will have a detailed presentation of the ERA-MIN project, of the call. So I finished just here. Dina will present the details of everything. So speaking after me, I just really want to greet everyone and wish you a very successful event. I'm sure it will be, that we will be able to answer all your questions, and that this will be the first step to achieve results under this important thematic of the raw materials for our sustainable development and circular economy. Thank you to everyone and nice work.
Thank you very much, Helena. Really appreciate your words and your time to launch this this event. And without further ado, I'll give room for Dina Carrillo, who is the coordinator of this ERA-MIN3 project. ERA-MIN, hopefully, Dina, hopefully you should be able to now share your screen, and I believe you're still muted, but we are already seeing your screen.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today and having this role as coordinator of ERA-MIN3. Well, 4 years ago, we were in Brussels. We were at the Raw Materials Week and launching this event. And I would love to meet all of you in person. But well, let's look into the advantage of organizing this event through the web, because I can see that we have more than 200 participants. And if this was not through the web, you would not be having access to all this information. So it's really a great pleasure to be here with you today. So I'm one of the fewest persons in ERA-MIN network that has been working in ERA-MIN since the beginning of this network. So I think I have the duty to share with you all my experiences and background. So in this slide, you are still seeing my screen, right? Yes. Well, for those of you that are not familiar with the ERA-NET funding scheme, I really would like to try to explain to you. So through EU research projects, as you can see here, they have large consortia and also large funding, and some coordinators say it is more difficult to manage. Then we have the national regional projects, so less partners and less number of consortia, less funding. So in between them, we have the projects that ERA-NET are funding. So these are international projects, but the funds to the partners are coming from the different countries and regions participating in this ERA-NET. So as an example, ERA-MIN is an EU-funded project, so receives funding from the Commission, but then we launch calls for proposals, and then researchers can apply for funding and considering the ERA-NET funding scheme to support international consortia and promote the collaboration between the different experts. So considering the landscape on raw materials, so in 2008, the Raw Materials Initiative was published. And then in 2011, the ERA-MIN, the first network, has started with 1.5 million from the Commission under FP7. Then one of the work of ERA-MIN was to make this research agenda that has been a background document of the European Innovation Partnership on Raw Materials. And after that, the Circular Economy Package was published in 2015. And then we had the opportunity to start the ERA-MIN2 with 5 million euros from the Commission to support not only the coordination activities between the funding organizations, but also to support research projects. And now with the Green Deal recently launched, we have now the third generation of ERA-MIN network that has just started on 1st December 2020. And we will go through Horizon Europe. So in this slide, you can see that in green are the countries that are participating in ERA-MIN network since the beginning. Good, so this is a strong network of research funding organizations, not only from countries, but also regions in member states, and also countries outside Europe, as you can see. So we have the new now countries in blue, and also those countries, for example, the Latin American countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Chile that have participated in ERA-MIN2. And for example, Brazil already expressed the interest to participate in ERA-MIN3. So the first ERA-MIN network was coordinated by France, CNRS, and with the objective to support the European industries. So the consortium was first with 15 partners, and then afterward, Argentina and South Africa associated to the calls. And this was one of the main outcomes of ERA-MIN, the research agenda with all the challenges and priorities. And we have used this agenda as the basis for the thematic areas in which we open the different calls for proposals. So this agenda was really built with the effort of 150 experts, and we also did a conference in Portugal to finalize this agenda, and it's available, and we ask you to consider the priorities and challenges in this agenda when you build your proposal to apply for a call of ERA-MIN. ERA-MIN has launched 3 joint calls. 17 projects were supported in total, and this is to show you that each time we launch a call, the first call was on primary resources only, but then we expanded the topics to recycling and substitution, and each time we had more countries associating to the call, giving more opportunities to the researchers for collaboration. So as you can see, the projects were already multidisciplinary, so they could address different subtopics to address the whole innovation chain, and you can see the distribution of the projects funded. So this slide is to show you that we did a publication after the end of ERA-MIN with analyzing the results of the 2 joint calls, the last 2, and you can see all the cooperation that was established between European countries, but also with Argentina and South Africa. And also you can see the participation companies, enterprises in the funded projects distributed by country and by topic. So after that, we started ERA-MIN2, this time coordinated by Portugal, to implement a European-wide coordination and to strengthen not only the industry, the shift to a circular economy. So, and this started in 2016. So the consortium was enlarged to 21 research funding organizations, as you can see here, not only with countries and regions in Europe, but also with Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and South Africa outside Europe, and also with Turkey, associated country. But you can also see on the right that there were other countries that have associated to the last 2 joint calls of ERA-MIN2. Czech Republic, Greece, Slovakia, and regions, 3 regions, Brussels, Calabria, Wallonia, and also the province of Quebec in Canada. So we are very happy to see that ERA-MIN, the network, giving more opportunities for the research community. So the scope of ERA-MIN has been always needs-driven research of primary and secondary resources, of metallic, construction, and industrial minerals. And you can also see that raw materials for batteries supply and also their recycling is also included in this framework. It also includes substitution of critical raw materials. And just to tell you that the objective is always to try to increase the resource efficiency and to promote the circular economy. With this slide, I would like to show you the results of the co-funded call in 2017, could be similar to the one that now we are opening, and it's now open. So 16 projects were supported. You can see the partnerships established between the different countries in the picture. And I wanted to tell you that nearly 100 proposals were submitted, involving nearly 500,000 applicants, of which 27% were enterprises. And in terms of the size of the consortium, we had consortium with 4 and 11 partners. So there is no limit, but this is what we had. In terms of countries, the proposals had between 2 and 8 countries. In terms of funding, the proposals were between 0.5 million and 1.5 million in funding. Of course, the total costs were higher due to the participation of the enterprises. And we have seen that 80% of the submitted projects were between universities and companies. But we also have received proposals purely academic or purely industrial ones. In terms of technology readiness level, ERA-MIN accepts all TRLs, but we have seen that in average, the TRL covered in those projects were between 4 and 7. But any TRL is accepted. Of course, this depends on the funding organization that provides the funding. And the project duration is up to 36 months. In this slide, you see the distribution of the projects considering the different subtopics. You can see that all the thematic areas were covered. Of course, we have this increased resource efficiency through recycling and recovery products were the subtopics most addressed. But you can also see that we have proposals that are addressing business models, social acceptance, because the proposals usually address more than one subtopic to cover as much as possible the innovation chain. So as a result of the 3 joint calls of ERA-MIN2, we had the ambition to support 30 projects, and we were able to fund at the end 40 projects. So this is really a great result in terms of funding. We aimed at 30 and we almost achieved our aim. So we have allocated public funding of 29 million, which includes also the EU contribution of 5 million euros, in addition to the national regional. So, and this slide summarizes the 6 joint calls of ERA-MIN and ERA-MIN2, in which you can see that 57 projects were supported, involving 30% of enterprises, 42 million euros of public funding, and 60 million euros of total project costs. So this also includes 8 battery-related projects of 6 million in the different calls. So just as an example, because there are 57 projects, I just examples for you to understand that the projects are aiming at improving the resource efficiency, new eco-innovative materials, technologies, environmentally friendly and efficient methods, optimization, novel circular economy, sustainable, regenerating, reuse, recycling of end-of-life products, substitution. Summaries, the abstracts of those projects are available on our website, and also the final reports of the 3 joint calls of ERA-MIN. Those projects have already ended and they are there for you to use and to build up on that research to proceed the research. So after this, we now reach ERA-MIN3, raw materials for the sustainable development and the circular economy. The consortium was enlarged to 24 funding organizations, and the new partners in the network are Quebec from Canada, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Estonia, Slovakia, Wallonia, and Navarra. The objectives are the same. So we are a pan-European of research funding organizations, and we aim to contribute to the sustainable and responsible supply of mineral metals, and also to promote worldwide coordinated funding by reducing the fragmentation of research funding that exists in Europe and globally. And we are doing this through the joint calls for proposals, and in order to support international projects between universities, research institutes, small, medium, and large enterprises. So to conclude, we are now running this joint call for proposals, and okay. Sorry, I just lost my slides. But you can still hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly, Dina.
Oh, just because I lost my slides, but no problem. It was just my last slide, just for you to tell you that in addition to this call that we are going to hear today, we are planning another joint call for 2023. And to this call, I invite the funding organizations from the other countries and regions in Europe and also outside Europe to join that network commit fund, so that we make more countries available for this international cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dina. Thank you very much for that presentation and for that overview of the ERA-MIN3 background. It is now a pleasure to give the floor to Jonas Hedberg from EASME. Jonas, you should be now having control and the ability to share the screen. I don't know if we can hear you just yet.
Yes, here I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly. And yes, we're now able to see your screen as well.
That is great. Okay, so let's see if we can get some slides on here. So first of all, I would like to say thank you to the ERA-MIN team for inviting me to this co-launch event. I mean, ERA-MIN is really a product that we are proud of. As Dina Carrillo mentioned, it's a long story. It's a successful story. I joined the story as a product advisor from the Commission side, a bit later than Dina as a coordinator. I joined in 2016. I joined this story, and I must say that has been a pleasant ride, and I've seen a lot of interesting activities and results coming out of it. So this is a real pleasure to be invited here to speak a bit. What I would like to give is the context of ERA-MIN in the Horizon 2020 perspective, because that's what I work with, and just to show a bit how it fits into the overall picture of Horizon 2020. Because let's remember this, that ERA-MIN is part of Horizon 2020, just as the Societal Challenge 5 on raw materials and just as the EIT on raw materials. It's all Horizon 2020 framework program. And what you can see in this slide is a bit a similar picture as ERA-MIN has, a kind of circular economy view to raw materials. You have the circle, raw material, minerals coming out of the ground. We work in extraction, we work in processing of mineral raw materials. We work in the manufacturing step as well, mostly with substitution, as mentioned. And also at the end of the circle, the reuse, recycling, and recovery side, which becomes more and more important. So also the secondary raw materials coming there. So what we have, so this is the Societal Challenge 5 on raw materials, and what we have is industry-led technology products mostly, as you can see from the circle, working in these different steps of the value chain. But we also have a lot of policy support actions. We have over the years of Horizon 2020 selected 24 products that work with coordination and support for a total of 48 million euros. And you can see also in the middle of this circle, the ERA-MIN, which here is a bit misleading because here I put 10 million euros. That here, of course, I speak about the EU funding going into ERA-MIN, but as you have seen from Dina Carrillo's slides, there's a lot more coming out in terms of national funding, both national funding and EU funding going into projects. And I will like to soon talk about that. In terms of who participates in our program, you have on the right side the different participants. You can see that it's, as I said, it's industry-led technology products. So there's an overwhelming, so much more than half of the participants in our program is actually from private sector participants. So it's very high, and that's good. But you see, we also have higher or secondary education, research organization, public bodies, and others. So I was mentioning 10 million euros of EU funding going into the ERA-MIN. I mean, here I'm speaking about both ERA-MINs that were in the Horizon 2020 program. Of course, there was an ERA-MIN before as well in FP7, as you heard from Dina. But these 10 millions in Horizon 2020, I mean, it's much more than 10 million euros. It's in ERA-MIN2, which was the project that is still running, that the predecessor to ERA-MIN3. We had in total, as Dina mentioned, 40 projects and 30 million euros that has been selected. So and there was only 5 million euros of EU funding going in there. So that's a huge and great use of EU funding, I would say. And now with this ERA-MIN3 first call, we're speaking about another 90 million euros in 2021. that will go into new products, and then you would have, of course, have to add the additional calls that comes afterwards. There are plans of 1 or 2 additional calls in ERA-MIN3, so even more funding going into these projects. So and apart from this picture in Horizon 2020, we should also remember that we have another, let's say, big animal in this raw materials part, and it's the EIT on raw materials. So the last time I looked, between Societal Challenge 5, which I work with, and the EIT raw material, we have something like 1 billion euros of Horizon 2020 funding going into raw material research and innovation. And that is unprecedented in before, because it's the first time in Horizon 2020 that we have a specific part on raw materials funding. So if we look a bit closer, what in the Societal Challenge 5 of the Horizon program, what are the private sector participants that participate in our program? And here, a colleague of mine, Vijay Rajendran from the EASME team, the raw material team, he did some research on where the participants come from. And as you can see, there's it's not only raw material producers. You can see indeed in the left-hand side that it's many of the participants in our programs are actually the end users and the service and technology providers to the different steps of the value chain, and they come from a very diverse field of sectors, as you can see on the right side. You can see that some of these things we still have to refine. It's somehow preliminary results, but it's interesting to see who are participating in raw material research and innovation on Horizon 2020 level. This does not include ERA-MIN, of course, at the time being, not the projects that are funded by ERA-MIN. In terms of the countries, it is in general, we encourage international cooperation in our program, and that means that we have quite a lot of global participation. As you can see, South Africa is very high among the global participants, and to some extent that can be explained also because they are automatically eligible to receive EU funding, which some advanced countries like Canada, for example, and Australia would not be automatically eligible. So that explains why they have a lot of participation, of course. You can see on the corner there is the green fields are the countries on the Horizon 2020 that are automatically eligible for funding, EU funding. So that's the fact that not all know that actually 130 countries outside of Europe may receive automatically EU funding in Horizon 2020. Then Horizon Europe, there will be new decisions and so on, but I think that it's a similar picture, most likely. But talking about global participation and global cooperation, ERA-MIN is not less, actually. ERA-MIN has been pretty good at picking up also advanced raw material nations like Canada and Brazil that don't receive normally funding under other programs, so they are participating in this global network that is ERA-MIN. So there's very good opportunities to global cooperation in ERA-MIN as well. I mentioned here 30 funding organizations. This considers both the ERA-MIN actions that went on the Horizon 2020, so both ERA-MIN2 and ERA-MIN3. There have been 30 funding organizations from the countries you can see here in this chart. And what I would like to say with all these figures and putting ERA-MIN in the context of Horizon 2020 is that there are a few things that we can conclude about ERA-MIN, I think, from a Horizon 2020 perspective. Okay, one thing is that Dina already mentioned this, but the ERA-MIN network, ERA-NETs in general, they are complementary to the general Horizon 2020 perspective. It's quite different. So ERA-MIN, you can see that if you compare it to Horizon 2020 Societal Challenge 5 that deals with raw materials, they are complementary in the sense that it's a bottom-up approach. You know, there are specific fields and topics defined, as you will see in the call text, but it's really a bottom-up approach in the sense that if you compare it to Horizon 2020 Societal Challenge 5, it's broader challenges, and there's an openness to a wide variety of ideas and a wide variety of technology readiness levels. So in Horizon 2020 Societal Challenge 5, we go more for specific challenges, and so we frame it a bit more. So that's an important aspect of ERA-MIN. Also, the fact that there are a bit lighter eligibility conditions. You may know that in ERA-MIN, it's 2 EU or EU member states or associated countries that has to be represented, whereas in Horizon 2020 Societal Challenge, we have 3 EU member states or associated countries that need to be in the consortium. So that also gives place. So the fact that it's more a bottom-up approach and lighter eligibility conditions, I think, give place for smaller products and smaller consortia as well, compared to Horizon 2020 in general. And that we saw also from the statistics and figures that Dina gave, that in general, it's slightly smaller products and consortia, which is good, because that's also needed. We need this bottom approach with new solutions, new ideas to challenges. That's an important difference. And of course, it's also complementary in the sense that there are important synergies to be expected with both the Societal Challenge 5 of the Horizon 2020 program, with the EIT raw materials, but also on the side of materials, so the NMBP program and the materials ERANET, MERA.net. What I would also like to point out is that it's a action which have very high standards in terms of processes and and results. Consider that the evaluation process used in ERA-MIN is basically the same as used in our program, Societal Challenge 5, Horizon 2020. It's just as robust. So I'm not saying that we are best in Horizon 2020, but it's a good standard. It gives a guarantee that there's a good evaluation process in place on a European level. Also, this top-up approach allows really maximizing the use of both the EU funds and the national funds. So when I say top-up approach, I mean that the EU funds are really used to cover the gaps, if you like, so that to fill in where the national commitments are not enough because of the applicant pressure, let's say. There it allows the EU funding to go in and cover, and that allows a maximum number of projects and the maximum number of funding to be realized. And also, as I already said before, with the participation chart and the world map before, there are really good international cooperation with advanced material producing countries, which do participate in this global network, which ERA-MIN has built up over the years, and that's quite a significant chance for cooperation. So somehow that was my conclusions on ERA-MIN in a Horizon 2020 perspective and context. I would like to finish off a little bit about, let's say, promoting our program, and that is also in the context of ERA-MIN, that there are different ways where you can find out about results coming out of Horizon 2020 program. And in this slide, I have listed a few places where you can look. They're easy to find if you look them up. We have a environment and resources data hub on our EASME website, where you can go in and look up products and see who participates and what they do. There are also demonstration sites marked out at this map, which can also be interesting to know what kind of demonstrations take place. We have an Horizon dashboard, which is really made for the public to see where EU funding goes and to get some figures and statistics on where the EU funding goes. We have a Horizon results platform where project results are being highlighted. Similarly, with the Horizon results booster, you can see that at the same site. We have innovation success stories. something coming out of the innovation radar as well, which is a tool we use to track innovation in our products. We have the Cordis, which is the old database, which is still in use, maybe the most complete one. It covers the FP7 as well. So there you can find any projects and results coming out of there. And then, of course, as many people know, it's the Joint Research Center managed raw material information system, which is really interesting in terms of raw material results. At the right, you can also see examples of results pack that came out in exploration extraction field from EASME side. That's also an interesting read. And I would also like to mention, apart from this, that ERA-MIN projects, so the projects that have been funded by ERA-MIN2, has been quite active in participating in different events that we have organized or others in the raw material sector. Dina mentioned the Raw Material Week, but I can add to that the Mineral Exploration Symposium that we had this autumn, and also the EIT Raw Material Summit, of course, that they also were showcasing the results there. So they are part of the Horizon 2020 story. And as a final kind of call for you, I would always like to encourage people to consider becoming independent experts in this evaluation process that we have both in Horizon 2020 Society Challenge 5. Here I'm talking about Society Challenge 5, of course, but it might be also that ERA-MIN, they have a similar procedure, so it's always something that can be encouraged. Consider that, consider that we're always on the outlook for new experts, because we are always looking at new topics in our work program. We need new expertise. We need to rotate some experts. So that means that we will always look at the database of experts and try to discover new experts. So if you're interested in doing such work, then my advice would really be, and encourage you to register in our database. And this is also a good opportunity to read some excellent proposals and network with fellows. So that's my final call. I would like to call for more and more experts out there to come and join us in our evaluation process. And with that said, then I would just like to say that I'm looking forward to this 2021 call for ERA-MIN3. I hope that this will continue to be as successful as it's been in ERA-MIN2. And I wish you a good rest of this launch event. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Jonas. Very nice words and a very good overview of how ERA-MIN fits in the whole Horizon 2020 context. And unless there are any questions, it's a pleasure to now give the floor Daniel Cios from the Director General to InPro. He'll be giving as well some overview of ERA-MIN in the context of critical raw materials action plans. So hopefully, Daniel, you should now have control and the ability to share your screen. I think we can also hear you.
Yes. Yes, just one moment. I get the presentation. Can you see it full screen?
We can see it perfectly and we can hear you just as well.
Thank you very much, George.
Good
afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me for this meeting and actually for organizing it. I can only share the positive opinion that Jonas mentioned on ERA-MIN and the experience we have so far in the Commission with the ERA-MIN network and the project. And we think indeed that is a very good tool for raw materials projects and for contribution to our raw materials policy. Jonas made a presentation on the Horizon 2020 perspective on ERA-MIN, I will give you a perspective from the raw materials policy dimension, especially on the recent action plan on critical raw materials, which was adopted last September. So basically, last autumn we have been very active in the raw materials field. We published several documents related to raw materials. The most important was the critical raw materials communication, which presented the list of critical raw materials. 30 raw materials are now listed as critical, including lithium. We also prepared a foresight study on the raw materials that are needed for strategic technologies and sectors. It's a foresight study, and based on it, we can clearly see that the demand for raw materials will only continue to grow. It will not decrease, which only confirms the need for policy on raw materials and also significant funding on research and innovation projects. I will here speak, well, in the communication, we decided not only to have the list of critical raw materials, but we actually prepared 10 actions on what the Commission plans to do with the situation on the raw materials markets and policy, and we came up with a 10-point action plan. It covers many activities that the Commission, member states, and also other stakeholders can take to change the situation in raw materials. For example, we launched the Raw Materials Alliance last September to identify and develop promising projects on raw materials. We are looking on sustainable financing criteria. We are mapping potential of supply of secondary critical raw materials from EU stocks and waste. We are identifying investment needs, developing expertise and skills in mining. We are looking at deployment of Earth observation programs for exploration, operation. Oh, sorry, I just lost the slide.
We can see it. Oh, we've lost it as well now.
Okay, I lost. Can you see it now?
Now it's back again, yes.
Okay, sorry for that. So yeah, Earth observation, promoting responsible mining practices for critical raw materials, and finally research and innovation. From these 10 actions, we have 2 actions actually that contribute directly to research and innovation. The third action here on the slide is also an action that contributes or is relevant for the ERA-MIN network. So here on the slide you can see what we consider important from the perspective of the ERA-MIN. So we have 3 actions. 3 actions that we encourage the ERA-MIN network and the applicants to familiarize with and try to contribute to these 3 points. The first one is developing research and innovation on waste processing, advanced materials, and I have some problem with the slides. I cannot see the full slides, so I don't know. I cannot see.
You're currently.
I cannot see the full slide.
You can see you're currently in the CRM action plan where you show points 3, 8, and 9 in large.
But I just see half of my slides, so I cannot cannot see more what is on the right side of the slide. So if I miss something what is on the description, I apologize for that. So the first point is research and innovation on waste processing, advanced materials, and I believe the third point there is on substitution. I cannot see that on my slide because it's hidden. So this action is important because we see that many valuable raw materials are just ending up as landfills, yes, and we see a need of developing research and innovation actions that would still enable these raw materials to be used in the economy and in different processes. So this is one point which is definitely needed, so we don't end up with landfills and waste from mining and processing activities. And also substitution is a very important aspect because we really think that critical raw materials can be, in some extent, substituted with other less critical raw materials. This is an area which has a lot of possibilities for improvement. That's why we put it here as one of the important parts of activities. Then we have the eighth action, developing R&I projects on exploitation and processing of critical raw materials. As we have identified together with the member states, there's a huge potential for raw material sourcing of primary raw materials in Europe. However, in many cases, we are still lacking the appropriate technology for some deposits, or we are missing, for example, less environment, or we are missing more environmentally friendly technologies for extracting of the raw materials and then further processing and refining it. So there's a huge potential here in this area, especially that the Commission policy, and it also goes together hand in hand with Horizon Europe, which is going to be launched soon, is that all the research should be contributing to the green and digital transition. This means that the research projects will need to address the needs from that green and digital transition. So for example, we will be focusing on making the industry more green, less reducing their environmental footprint, making the processes of production more environmentally friendly, reducing the emissions, and at the same time digitalizing the industry. And for example, including remote sensing or automation in the processes, for example, in the raw materials sector. So there's a huge potential here for in the raw materials sector that we will also encourage stakeholders to look at. Finally, the third action is developing strategic international partnerships to secure critical raw materials. And we see a huge potential in cooperation with resource-rich countries. We want to develop partnerships that are sustainable and responsible. And as you have seen already in presentations made by Dina and by Jonas, ERA-MIN already performs, goes into partnerships with some of the countries already, and we are very happy with that, and we encourage further cooperation with these countries and inviting new partners as well. This is one of the actions that the Commission would be undertaking. We are already discussing, well, since few years already with the trilateral US, EU, Japan. We are discussing with the Canadians, with Chile, and also our neighboring countries like Ukraine, Serbia. So we are looking in various directions closer to Europe and also in other continents. And we also encourage this for ERA-MIN. I would like to finish mentioning that ERA-MIN3 comes in a very good moment, because we are, well, the Horizon 2020 is finishing. Yeah, there will be no more calls published for Horizon 2020. So ERA-MIN comes from the last year of calls for proposals under Horizon 2020, and we are very happy to see it operating at least in the first years of Horizon Europe. So there will be still continuation of the ERA-MIN activities for the next few years, and we are very happy to see that happening. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Daniel. Thank you so much for your words, and thank you all the speakers that contributed for this first part of the agenda. As per the plan, we are now going to have room for a brief break, but we also have a few questions out there which we can also take this opportunity to reply. And of course, again, take this opportunity to remind all the attendees that you can pose your questions through the questions dashboard. So again, thank you all to the speakers, and I'll just read out a couple of the one of the latest questions, which is on does critical raw materials action 3 fit with topic 4, recycling and reuse of end-life products of ERA-MIN3? Dina, would you want to take that question? I don't think we can hear you just yet there, Dina.
I could not see the question. Can you repeat, please?
Yes, so that's the critical raw materials action 3 that Daniel just described, fit with topic 4, recycling and reuse of end-of-life products of the ERA-MIN3 protocol.
Yes, I think so, because it's about waste, right? It was about recycling and waste. Yes, so when you are preparing a proposal, you should take into account all these policy documents and try to see how your project idea will contribute for those policy documents. So please consider the critical raw materials action plan, also the 30, now the list of the 30 raw materials which are critical for the European Commission, okay, as well as the ERA-MIN research agenda, and also the strategic implementation plan of the European Innovation Partnership on Raw Materials.
Okay, very good, thank you, Dina. And it's a question as well about whether there are former successful applications available, and I believe the question actually means the actual proposal submitted, and this is not the case. You know, these are not publicly available, are they? These are treated as confidential.
The submitted proposals that were not funded? No, that is
successful applications.
The successful applications. So all the summaries of the project that ERA-MIN has funded, the 57, they are published in our website, ERA-MIN website, in a section called results.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But the applications themselves, the actual documents submitted, those are kept confidential.
Oh, okay. So this is up to the funding organizations. So some funding organizations, they are obliged by their own law in their country to make these applications visible and public. So this is up to each country. But my advice is that you contact the coordinator, and then you ask for that information. And if they want to give it to you, it will be fine for us.
Very good. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Dina. Okay, so